Hello world, first up in today's exploration of cybersecurity tech news, a dad has managed to take out an entire town's internet by mistake. This story's actually been on my list for a while now, but I just had to talk about it even if it is a couple of months old. So this all went down in a small, picturesque coastal town in the south of France, whose name I'm not even going to try and pronounce. It all kicked off when a local mobile phone operator spotted something odd. Every day between midnight and 3 AM, a black hole in their coverage would mysteriously appear. It was clear that something or someone was interfering with the signal, and so they reported the problem to the ANFR. This is essentially the French version of the FCC. These guys are tasked with policing the electromagnetic spectrum. The ANFR figured that someone must be jamming the 3G and 4G frequencies, so they sent a technician to locate this miscreant. Jammers work by spewing out noise on whichever frequency they want to disrupt. This makes it hard for devices like phones to recognize legitimate communications. But a jammer can be located using a directional receiving antenna paired with a compass. By moving the antenna in a circle, you can paint a picture of the level of noise coming from each direction, and then you just walk in that direction until you stumble across a jammer. The technician discovered that the jamming was coming from a single home. The culprit, a dad that couldn't get his kids to stop using their phones at night, and after consulting forums on the internet, he bought a multi-band jammer to do his parenting for him. And in doing so, he had inadvertently prevented a good chunk of the town from using their mobile phone connections or Wi-Fi. Of course, this is very illegal, and in France it carries a potential sentence of 6 months imprisonment and a €30,000 fine. But judging from Google Translate's poor job, it looks like he's gotten away with just a €450 fine and confiscation of the jammer, which I do think is fair. I doubt the guy knew he was breaking the law, but at the same time you'd hope people have at least a shed of common sense. I mean, when you find yourself halfway across town having trouble with your 4G connection, you'd think it would cross your mind that, maybe it has something to do with that jammery thing I bought off the internet. The situation isn't helped by the fact that jammers really aren't too difficult to buy on the internet. You don't need to dip your toes into the dark web or anything. Just search buy jammer on Google and the very first search result is Jammer for UK. This website sells jammers which work on various frequencies. They even sell GPS jammers. But I'm not sure what the practical use of those is, unless of course you're an invading Russian army. However, the video testimonial on their homepage is the fakest thing I've ever seen.
Thank you, www.jammer4u.co.uk. This is the best jammer gadget I've brought in a very long time. Now I have a quiet environment without any cell phones ringing when I'm in important meetings.
I don't know, maybe this is too harsh, but this guy doesn't come across as someone who has important meetings. Surely this has to be one of those Fiverr testimonials. But if you do want to read more about the French jammer dad, I'll link the article from the ANFR below. It is kind of funny, the blog post is written almost like a novel. They've titled it The Teeth, the Jammer, and to Bed. It's almost like this is the most exciting thing that's happened in their office in years. Next up, after 14 of their members were arrested by Russian authorities just a couple of months ago, Revil, arguably the world's most infamous cybercrime gang, is back. Kinda, maybe. This group has an eventful history. They've used their weapon of choice, ransomware, to conduct some of the most well-known financially motivated cyber attacks. The obvious one being the Kaseya ransomware attack, where almost every company which used certain Kaseya remote management software was held to ransom. Revil demanded $70 million to free the 1 million devices they claimed to have infected. These guys have also been responsible for attacking US nuclear weapons contractors, so nothing too important then. But like I said, the party was shut down a couple of months back when Russian authorities arrested 14 of the group's members. Since then, they've been silent, until about a week ago when their dark web blog on which they would leak data from victims that refused to pay ransoms mysteriously reappeared. This is significant because you can only host a site on a given Onion domain if you hold the corresponding private key, so any activity on this domain must have come from a Revil member, or someone that somehow managed to get a hold of that private key. Their domain now redirects to a new Onion site which contains the data from previous Revil victims, plus a couple of new victims. This apparently rebooted Revil is also looking for new affiliates to join their team, offering them an 80% slice of the profits. However, is this site really the work of Revil members who managed to evade arrest, or could there be another explanation? For example, after the FBI took down Revil servers last year, which I've done a whole video on, so a month after the FBI takedown, researchers discovered that their dark website had been replaced with, Well, I'm not quite sure what to make of this. It's in Russian, but translated, the page is titled "Revel is bad," along with some cryptic messages. They are not the masters they think they are. We have the skills and experience. Do you want to be with the most qualified or losers? As well as a login prompt. Now, this obviously makes no sense to me, and I couldn't find any ideas from researchers as to what this means. Someone was obviously trolling, but whether that's Revel members that had escaped arrest, or another group that had hacked Revel servers, no one seems to know. But it does at least suggest that someone other than Revel might have access to their site. So this Revel reboot could be the FBI just trying to entrap ransomware affiliates. Or perhaps it's another cybercrime group altogether, which, after gaining control of Revel's site, simply decided to adopt the Revel brand, which wouldn't be unheard of. Last year, a cybercrime gang was found to be falsely operating under the name of DarkSide. The real DarkSide ransomware gang was really well known at the time for the Colonial Pipeline hack, so this unrelated group was using the reputation of DarkSide to intimidate companies into paying them 100 Bitcoin. And whilst we're on the topic of ransomware, I need to put out a bit of a PSA and retract some of my previous advice, and thanks to those of you that have been giving me a heads up in the comments about this. So I'd previously suggested that you could protect yourself from malware, or at least to some limited extent, by installing a Russian keyboard layout on your computer. Not necessarily using it, but just having it installed in the background was enough. Why? Because Russian malware will often refuse to run on computers it thinks are located in Russia. This is to comply with the unwritten rule that so long as Russian cybercriminals don't target Russians, they'd be left alone by authorities. And so cybercriminals added code to their malware that would check what keyboard layouts a potential victim had installed, and if it found Russian, it'd just assume the computer is located in Russia and then delete itself. So this is why I suggested downloading a Russian keyboard layout, as a kind of vaccine to Russian malware. But things have changed, and now this may not be such a great idea. If you do have a Russian keyboard layout installed for this reason, now might be a good time to delete it. This is due to the emergence of protestware, and this term seems to have only been invented in the last month or so in response to a brand new phenomenon, in which maintainers of open source projects have been protesting the invasion of Ukraine by adding little Easter eggs for their Russian users. In many cases, these Easter eggs are relatively benign. In one case, the code checks if a computer uses a Russian time zone, and if true, it'll just display an anti-war message. But in another example, code was added to a popular open source project which, after determining a computer was in Russia by geolocating their IP, it would wipe files and replace them with heart emojis, which I imagine is very inconvenient to be on the receiving end of. So whilst these two examples rely on time zones and IP addresses to determine location, having a Russian keyboard layout installed may not be the best of ideas, just in case that's the variable software decides to use. And protestware is more of a problem than it might seem, because one open source project may be a dependency in a lot of other software, and given the project may only be maintained by a small number of people, or perhaps just a single person, it doesn't take many people to create absolute havoc. However, so far this problem has been relatively contained. Other than a couple of incidents last month, this has been a non-issue, but yeah, remember, no Russian. Now this video was made possible by Linode, who are giving you a $100 60-day credit just for signing up. Linode is essentially your Swiss Army knife for cloud computing. If it runs on Linux, it'll run on Linode. One great feature of Linode is their app marketplace, which makes it super easy to spin up servers with pre-configured software. For example, use Linode's Pi-hole app to set up a DNS sinkhole that you can use to block ads across all your devices. And yeah, I do recognise the irony in promoting ad blocking within an actual ad. Linode can run almost anything by providing all the tools a developer really needs at competitive prices. Use the link in the description now to claim your free $100. As always, thank you for watching, and you know the drill, make sure to tickle the notification bell and follow me on the Instagrams for behind the scenes content, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.